The rain hammered against the hospital window as Ivy Bennett sat in the uncomfortable plastic chair, watching her mother sleep. The steady beep of the heart monitor had become a soundtrack to her life over the past 3 months. At 28, Ivy had never imagined she would spend her evenings here. In the oncology ward, counting the minutes until visiting hours ended, her mother, Patricia, looked so small in the hospital bed. The vibrant woman who had raised Ivy alone, would work double shifts as a seamstress to put her through college, now barely weighed 100 pounds. The cancer was aggressive. The treatment that might save her life was not covered by their basic insurance plan. Ivy pulled her cardigan tighter around her shoulders. The air conditioning was too cold, or maybe it was just the constant fear that made her shiver. She had already taken out every loan she qualified for, sold her car, and moved into a tiny studio apartment. Her teaching salary at Riverside Elementary barely covered the basics, let alone the $70,000 the doctor said they needed for the experimental treatment. An impossible offer the social worker found her in the hospital cafeteria the next morning. Ivy was nursing her third cup of terrible coffee, trying to grade papers before her afternoon shift at the tutoring center. Miss Bennett, I'm Claire Washington from Patient Services. Do you have a moment? Ivy looked up at the kind-faced woman in the navy blazer. Is it about my mother? Is she okay? Your mother is resting comfortably. This is about something else entirely.
Ow.
Claire sat down across from her, lowering her voice. I've been authorized to present you with an unusual opportunity. It's completely confidential, and you're under no obligation to consider it. Ivy set down her red pen. I'm listening. Claire slid a business card across the table. The name embossed in silver read, Rebecca Chen, Private Family Law. I have a client who is looking for someone very specific. Someone with your background, your character, and your current circumstances. The compensation would be substantial enough to cover all your mother's medical expenses, plus provide you with financial security. What kind of work? Ivy's heart was pounding. Nothing legal paid that kind of money to an elementary school teacher. Surrogacy, Claire said gently, but it's more complex than a typical arrangement. My client is looking for someone willing to carry his child and potentially be part of the child's life afterward. He's done extensive background research, and you're his first choice. The mansion on Riverside Drive 2, days later, Ivy found herself standing in front of iron gates that opened onto a private driveway. The estate beyond looked like something from a movie, all stone and glass and perfectly manicured gardens. Her hands were sweating as she pressed the intercom button. Miss Bennett, please come up to the main house. The voice was female, professional, warm. The gates swung open silently. Ivy walked up the long driveway, her modest dress in flats, feeling painfully out of place. A woman in her 40s met her at the door. I'm Rebecca Chen. Thank you for coming. Mr. Mercer is waiting in his study. The house was beautiful, but surprisingly comfortable. Not the cold museum Ivy had expected. There were books everywhere, plants in the windows, and photographs on the walls showing a man with kind eyes in various parts of the world. Rebecca led her through French doors into a sunlit room where a man stood with his back to them, looking out over the gardens. He was tall, with dark hair just starting to gray at the temples, wearing jeans and a simple white shirt with the sleeves rolled up. When he turned, Ivy felt her breath catch. Julian Mercer was not what she expected. Yes, he was handsome in that way. Successful men often were, with strong features and intelligent eyes. But there was something gentle in his expression, something sad that made him seem more human than the billionaire tech genius she had read about online. The man. Find the fortune, Miss Bennett. Thank you for agreeing to meet with me. His voice was quiet, measured. Please, sit down. Can Rebecca get you anything? Water? Tea? I'm fine, thank you. Ivy perched on the edge of an armchair, her purse clutched in her lap like a shield. Julian sat across from her, leaning forward with his hands clasped. I want to be completely honest with you about why you're here. 5 years ago, I was engaged to be married. Her name was Sophie. We had planned everything, including starting a family right away. He paused, and Ivy saw the pain flicker across his face. She died in a car accident 2 weeks before our wedding. For a long time, I thought I would never want to try again. But lately, the desire to be a father has become overwhelming. I want a child, but I'm not ready for another romantic relationship. I may never be ready. Ivy's throat felt tight. This was not the cold business transaction she had imagined. I've spent months looking for the right person, Julian continued. Someone kind, intelligent, healthy, and someone who needs help as much as I need theirs. Your mother's illness, your dedication to her, the way your students' parents speak about you online, all of it painted a picture of someone I would trust with something this precious. The weight of decision. Rebecca pulled out a folder. The contract is straightforward. You would live here during the pregnancy. All medical expenses covered, plus a payment of $200,000, half up front for your mother's treatment. The other half after the birth. You would have complete medical autonomy and the best care available. Ivy's head was spinning. $200,000. Her mother could live. She could breathe again. There's one more thing, Julian said softly. I'm not looking for someone to disappear after the birth. I want my child to know their mother if you're willing. This could be whatever we make it. A business arrangement that ends at birth, or something more like a family. Ivy looked at this man. This stranger who was offering her everything she needed and asking for something she had never imagined giving. Can I think about it? Of course. Take as much time as you need. But as Ivy walked back down that long driveway, she already knew what her answer would be. Her mother was dying. This man needed a child. Sometimes desperation and hope looked exactly the same. She called Rebecca from her car. When do we start? 3 weeks after signing the contract, Ivy stood in the bedroom that would be hers for the next year. It was larger than her entire studio apartment had been. The walls were painted a soft cream color, and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the garden where roses bloomed in shades of pink and white. A king-sized bed sat against one wall, covered in luxurious linens that probably cost more than her monthly salary. Her few belongings looked lost in the enormous walk-in closet. 2 suitcases of clothes, some books, and a framed photo of her mother were all she had brought. Everything else from her old life had been sold or stored. I had the kitchen stocked with things Rebecca said you liked. Julian's voice came from the doorway, making Ivy jump. But please, make a list of anything else you need. This is your home now. Ivy turned to face him. He looked different than he had at their first meeting. More relaxed in a gray sweater and dark jeans, his hair slightly messy as if he had been running his hands through it. Thank you. This room is beautiful. Everything is beautiful. I want you to be comfortable. Julian shifted his weight, looking as awkward as she felt. I've set up the guest room next door as a sitting area for you. Books, a television, whatever you need for privacy. My room is on the other side of the house, so you won't feel crowded. Its formality between them felt like a wall. They were about to create a life together, yet they spoke like polite strangers at a business meeting. Finding rhythm in unfamiliar spaces, the first week passed in a blur of doctor's appointments and awkward dinners. Julian worked long hours, often disappearing into his home office early in the morning and emerging only for meals. They ate together at the large dining table, making small talk about the weather and her mother's improving health. The experimental treatment was working. Patricia was getting stronger every day. Ivy spent her mornings in the garden, reading or preparing lesson plans for when she would eventually return to teaching. She missed her students, missed the simplicity of her old life. But every time doubt crept in, she remembered her mother's smile when the doctors delivered good news. One evening, Ivy found Julian in the living room, sitting at the piano she had noticed during her first visit. His fingers moved over the keys, playing something soft and melancholy that made her chest ache. She stood in the doorway, not wanting to interrupt. But he sensed her presence and stopped, looking over his shoulder. I'm sorry. Did I wake you? No, I couldn't sleep. That was beautiful. What was it? Something Sophie used to love. Debussy. His voice carried that same sadness she had heard when he first mentioned his late fiancée. Do you play? I took lessons as a child, but I wasn't very good. Ivy moved closer, drawn by something in his expression. You must miss her very much. Julian's hands rested on the keys without pressing them. Every day. People say time heals, but I think it just teaches you how to carry the weight differently. For the first time since she moved in, the wall between them cracked just slightly. Ivy sat down on the piano bench beside him, careful to maintain distance. "Can you teach me?" "The song, I mean?" Julian looked surprised, then pleased. Yes, I can do that." When walls begin to crumble, the piano lessons became their routine. Every evening after dinner they would sit together and Julian would guide her fingers over the keys. His hands were patient, his voice gentle when he corrected her mistakes. Sometimes their shoulders would brush, and Ivy would feel a flutter in her stomach that had nothing to do. With morning sickness, the pregnancy was confirmed in the 4th week. Ivy sat in the fertility clinic, Julian beside her as the doctor showed them the tiny flicker on the ultrasound screen. "Congratulations, you're definitely pregnant. Everything looks perfect." Julian's hand found Ivy's, squeezing gently. When she looked at him, there were tears in his eyes. "Thank you," he whispered. "Thank you for doing this." The gratitude in his voice made her heart twist. She wanted to tell him that it was becoming more than just a contract, that somewhere between piano lessons and quiet dinners, she had started to care about him in ways she had not planned. But the words stayed locked inside. Moments that matter. As Ivy's pregnancy progressed, Julian became more attentive. He would leave little notes on the kitchen counter. "Make sure you eat breakfast. Baby needs fuel." He stocked the refrigerator with her favorite fruits and kept ginger tea ready for her morning sickness. When she mentioned craving chocolate chip cookies at midnight, she found fresh ones waiting the next evening. One rainy afternoon, Ivy discovered a door she had never opened before. Inside was a nursery, half-finished and covered in dust. Baby furniture sat assembled but unused, paint samples on the walls showing various shades of yellow and green. "I started this for Sophie." Julian's voice came from behind her. "After she died, I couldn't bring myself to finish it or tear it down. It just sat here, frozen in time like everything else." Ivy turned to him, seeing the vulnerability in his face. "Maybe we could finish it together. Not erasing her memory, but building something new." Julian's blue eyes searched hers. "You would do that? This baby deserves a beautiful room. And I think Sophie would want that too." Something shifted in that moment. Julian reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind Ivy's ear. His touch was gentle, questioning. "Ivy, I need to tell you something." Her heart raced. "What is it?" "This arrangement, it's not working the way I planned." Fear gripped her. "Are you unhappy? Do you want me to leave?" "No." He stepped closer, his hand cupping her cheek. "I'm unhappy because I'm starting to feel things I promised myself I wouldn't feel. Things that weren't part of the contract." Ivy's breath caught. "Julian, ... I know this complicates everything. I know we agreed this was business. But somewhere between showing you the house and teaching you piano and seeing you grow with my child, I started falling for you. And I don't know what to do about it." The truth between them. Ivy's hand covered his where it rested against her cheek. "I feel it too. I've been so scared to admit it because what if you don't really want me? What if you just want the baby and I'm convenient?" "Convenient?" Julian laughed softly, sadly. "Ivy, you're the least convenient thing that's ever happened to me. You've turned my carefully ordered world completely upside down. I wake up thinking about you. I plan my day around the moments we'll be together. That's not convenience. That's something much more terrifying." "What do we do now?" Ivy whispered. "I don't know. But I don't want to pretend anymore. I don't want to keep you at arm's length when all I want is to hold you close." Before she could respond, Julian leaned down and kissed her. It was soft, tentative, asking permission with every gentle press of his lips. Ivy melted into him, her hands finding his shoulders, her heart opening to the possibility that maybe this was never just a contract. Maybe it was always meant to be more. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Julian rested his forehead against hers. "No pressure. We can take this as slow as you need. But I had to be honest with you." Ivy smiled, feeling lighter than she had in months. "I'm glad you were. I've been carrying this secret around, terrified you would think I was trying to trap you or change our agreement. The only thing trapped here is my heart, and you're the one holding it." The 7th month of pregnancy brought unexpected complications. Ivy woke in the middle of the night with sharp pains radiating through her abdomen. She tried to convince herself it was nothing, just the baby moving. But when she stood up, her legs nearly gave out beneath her. "Julian," she called out, her voice weak. Then louder, panic rising. "Julian." He appeared in her doorway within seconds, still half asleep, but alert. One look at her face and he was at her side, phone already in his hand, calling for an ambulance. "Stay with me, Ivy. Just breathe. Help is coming." His voice was steady, but his hands trembled as he held her. "You're going to be fine. Both of you are going to be fine." The ambulance ride felt endless. Julian never let go of her hand, whispering reassurances, even as his own fear showed in every line of his face. At the hospital, doctors rushed her into examination while Julian paced the waiting room. Running his hands through his hair over and over, Rebecca arrived within the hour, finding him staring blankly at the sterile white walls. "Julian, what happened?" "I don't know. She was in pain. What if something happens to her? What if I lose her too?" His voice cracked on the last word, and Rebecca saw the truth written across his face. This was no longer about the contract or the baby. This man had fallen completely in love. The moment everything becomes clear 3 hours later, the doctor emerged with good news. "She's stable. The baby is fine. It was a severe muscle spasm combined with dehydration. We're keeping her overnight for observation, but there's no lasting damage." Julian practically ran to her room. Ivy lay in the hospital bed, looking small and tired but smiling when she saw him. "Hey, I'm okay." He sank into the chair beside her bed, taking her hand in both of his. "You scared me to death. I thought I was going to lose you. I'm not going anywhere." Ivy squeezed his fingers. "We're both fighters, remember? Your baby and me. Not just my baby anymore." Julian's voice was thick with emotion. "Ivy, sitting in that waiting room, not knowing if you were okay, I realized something. I've been a coward. I told you I had feelings for you, but I'd never told you how deep they run." Ivy's eyes filled with tears. "Julian, you don't have to say anything just because you were scared. I'm not saying it because I was scared. I'm saying it because I can't hold it in anymore." He stood, moving to sit on the edge of her bed, his hand cupping her face gently. "I love you, Ivy Bennett. Not because you're carrying my child, not because you're beautiful and kind and everything good in this world. I love you because when I'm with you, I feel alive again. You brought light back into my darkness." The tears spilled over, running down Ivy's cheeks. "I love you too. I've loved you for months, but I was so afraid you only wanted me because of the baby. Then we've both been fools." Julian leaned down, kissing her softly. "When we get home, things are going to be different. No more separate sides of the house. No more pretending this is just a contract. I want to build a real life with you, if you'll have me. Shadows from the past, but happiness never comes without challenges." 2 weeks after the hospital scare, a woman appeared at the mansion gates. She was elegant, in her 60s, with perfectly styled silver hair and eyes that could freeze water. "I need to speak with Julian Mercer," she told the security guard. "Tell him Victoria Hastings is here, Sophie's mother." Julian's face went pale when he heard the name. He met Victoria in the formal living room, Ivy standing beside him despite his suggestion. She rushed upstairs. Double quotes, "Mrs. Hastings. This is unexpected." Victoria's cold gaze swept over Ivy, lingering on her pregnant belly. "I heard through mutual friends about your little arrangement. How convenient that you found a replacement womb for the grandchild my daughter never got to give me." "That's enough." Julian's voice was sharp. "Ivy's not a replacement for anything. And you have no right to come here making accusations, don't I?" Victoria's laugh was bitter. "My daughter loved you. She planned her whole future around you. And now, 5 years later, you're playing house with some girl you paid to have your baby?" Ivy felt her heart sink. The words cut deep because they echoed her own fears. Was she really just a convenient solution to Julian's desire for fatherhood? "Get out." Julian's voice was ice. "You don't know anything about Ivy or what we have together?" I know Sophie would be heartbroken to see how easily you moved on. After Victoria left, Ivy stood at the window, arms wrapped around herself. Julian approached carefully, seeing the doubt in her posture. She's wrong, Ivy, about everything. Is she, though? Ivy turned to face him, tears threatening. We met because you needed someone to carry your child. You paid me. How is that different from what she said? The truth that sets hearts for Julian crossed the room in 3 strides, taking her hands in his. Because what started as a contract became so much more. Yes, I was looking for a surrogate. Yes, I chose you because you needed help and I needed hope. But Ivy listened to me, guided her to sit on the couch, kneeling in front of her so their eyes were level. I loved Sophie. I will always carry her memory with me. But loving her doesn't mean I can't love you. You're not a replacement. You're not second choice. You're the woman who made me believe in second chances. How can you be sure? Ivy whispered. How do you know this is real and not just gratitude or convenience? Julian took a deep breath. Because when you were in that hospital, I didn't think about the baby first. I thought about you. I prayed for you. The idea of losing you felt like dying. That's not gratitude, Ivy. That's love. Pure, terrifying, all-consuming love. He pulled a small box from his pocket. Inside was a simple gold ring with a single diamond, elegant and understated. This isn't Sophie's ring. I had this made for you. Because you're not living in anyone's shadow. You're creating your own light. Julian, what are you doing? I'm asking you to marry me. Not because of the baby, not because of the contract. Because I want to wake up next to you every morning for the rest of my life. I want to raise our child together as partners, as lovers, as husband and wife. His voice shook with emotion. Ivy Bennett, will you marry me? Through her tears, Ivy smiled. Yes, 1,000 times yes. It's new beginnings. 2 months later, on a crisp autumn morning, Ivy went into labor. Julian never left her side, holding her hand through every contraction. Whispering words of love and encouragement, when their daughter finally arrived, crying lustily and perfect in every way, Julian cried too. He held the tiny bundle, looking down at her with wonder, then at Ivy with absolute devotion. She's beautiful. You're both so beautiful. They named her Hope, Patricia Mercer, after the hope that brought them together and the grandmother who had inspired such devotion in her daughter. Later, as Ivy recovered and Julian sat beside her hospital bed with Hope sleeping in his arms, she reached for his free hand. I never imagined this is where we would end up when I walked through your gates that first day. Neither did I. I thought I was looking for a solution to loneliness. Instead, I found everything I never knew I needed. What about the contract? Ivy asked softly. Julian smiled. I burned it last week. We don't need a piece of paper telling us who we are to each other. We're a family, Ivy, built on love, not legal terms. 3 months later, they married in the garden where Ivy had spent so many mornings. It was small and intimate, just family and close friends. Patricia was there, healthy and glowing, crying happy tears as her daughter exchanged vows with the man who had saved them both as Julian kissed his bride under an arch of roses. Hope asleep in her grandmother's arms. Ivy knew that sometimes the most beautiful love stories begin in the most unexpected ways. They had started as strangers bound by need and contract, but they had become something far more precious. They had become partners, lovers, parents, and best friends. The contract that brought them together had expired, but their love never would.